My boyfriend has been getting money from my sugar daddy. Story time. I'm a female aged 23 at one of the highest universities in the country. I'm doing my bachelor's degree and it's 4 years. Despite how lengthy this program was and the financial situation at home, I told myself that I would persevere and get my degree no matter what it took. I'm not an A-plus student. In my second year, I failed one course. I was supposed to write a supplementary exam for it. As the days were approaching, because I never thought I would fail, despite not being an A student, I knew I wasn't down to the extent of failing. Me failing took me by surprise. Because I still had the opportunity to write a supplementary exam, I told myself I would study like my life depends on it. So as the days were approaching, definitely I was studying day and night. I was very prepared for this exam. So according to my head, I was supposed to write this exam in the afternoon, according to what I saw on the timetable. So in the afternoon at around 12:30, the exam was supposed to start at 14. We are required to sit an hour before. At 12:30, I went to the exam hall just to sit in advance. When I get there, I find people leaving the exam hall. What does this mean? I have missed my exam. I got the times wrong. So I was looking at a course that has the same name as mine, but it's for third years. So I thought that was my course, but I got the codes wrong. When I got there, my heart broke in so many pieces. I tried to talk to the invigilators to see how best they could help me, but they told me it was not within their powers and I needed to talk to the lecturer. So for sure that day, I really wanted to write my exam. I was geared, I had studied, and I didn't ever imagine me failing. I went to the lecturer to see how he could help me. So when I got to the lecturer's office, he told me to come in and he was very welcoming, to be honest. He's a lecturer that I used to get along very well with, and he's those lecturers where everyone in the school actually loves. Because of how easygoing this man was, I really believed that he could help me. When I got to the office, I explained my situation and he told me he could help me, but the only way that could be done is if he were to prepare another exam for me. But this would take time, and by the time he would have prepared another exam for me, the results for supplementary exams would have been out. So that means I would still miss out on the course and I would have to repeat it. Hearing this broke my heart, and I just imagined what my mom would think of me if I tell her that I missed my exam. So I tried to negotiate with him if I could write the same paper that my friends had written. I told him that I hadn't seen the paper, so either way I wouldn't be cheating. He gave me this weird smile and he told me, oh, that's actually possible, but you wouldn't have to write it in school because lecturers would see that you're writing an exam that you have missed because that's not the time allocated for that paper. I told him, whatever it takes, I'm willing to do it. This man seems very happy at this point. I don't know if he misunderstands what I mean, but I try to clarify to say, whatever it takes, in the sense that I want to write this exam. So I'm willing to do everything to just write this exam. I pleaded with him. At this point, I was in tears. He told me we would have to find another venue where I would write this exam. So he said he can help me by paying for a place where he would accommodate me. I would write the paper and he would collect it and add it amongst the other papers for the students who wrote on time. I said, oh yeah, that's fine with me. And honestly, I didn't know what I was getting myself in. Because for me, it sounded like a genuine offer to help me. But I think I was being naive. He told me we would have to write it in the evening after he knocks off. And he told me he gets off at 17. So we agreed that we would meet at 7 p.m. At around 6 p.m., he sent me the location for where we would meet. And the location said something lodge. We got to the lodge. He told me he had organized the conference room where I would sit and write the exam while he invigilates. And for sure, this is what happened. At this point in my heart, I was very grateful for this man because he was literally saving my life. I sat in the conference room and for sure I wrote the exam, and it was the easiest paper I wrote because I had prepared religiously for this exam. In no time, I was done with the exam and I wanted to hand in my paper to him. After handing in the paper to him, I greeted him afterwards to say thank you and say goodbye. So while greeting him, he held on to my hand longer and told me, no, this is not how you're going to pay for this. He told me that I had to pay in kind, which means that I had to do what a married man should only do with his wife. I had to do it with him. We are adults here, we know what I'm talking about. I tried to decline, but he told me if I did so, he would rip my paper right there and then, and he told me that I would be disqualified from the university for malpractice. As a naive girl, I did what he wanted me to do. In my head, I was thinking this is a once-off thing. If this is what takes to save the semester, let me just do it once and for all. But I was very wrong. This one time wasn't the only time. It went on for a couple of years. Now that I'm in my third year, I found myself a boyfriend. He's very loving and I believe he's the love of my life. After meeting my boyfriend, my regular hookups with my lecturer did not end there. So immediately after I got a boyfriend, I thought of ending things with my lecturer, and I did approach him to tell him that I'm considering ending things, and he gave me the biggest threat of my life. He told me that he would tell the entire university that I have been going out with him, and he told me he doesn't mind losing his job if I was willing to sabotage whatever we had. He would tell the entire school, the management, and the students that him and I have been going out and we have been sleeping with each other. And he actually told me that he has videos. If I wanted out of the relationship, I had to accept to lose my education and my reputation. Months down the line, I did my best to hide my relationship from my boyfriend. Because he had my password to things, he actually demanded for my passwords at some point. I ended up giving them to him, and after some time, he found messages from my lecturer asking when we would meet again. After my boyfriend found out, it was so scary. I thought he would actually hit me, but he didn't, and he told me he's giving me a last chance and that I had to break up with this lecturer. We'll call him Mr. Zach. At this point, I had not yet told my lecturer about my boyfriend. We'll call him Andrew. So I hadn't told Mr. Zach about Andrew, and after this whole mess in my relationship, I didn't think my lecturer was worth losing Andrew over. So I decided to tell him that Andrew has told me to break up with him. So the lecturer once again threatened that if I did that, he would make sure that I was expelled from the university. As a remedy for this, my lecturer, Mr. Zach, told me that I could keep Andrew, but he just has to stay out of our business. When I'm with Mr. Zach, it has to be Mr. Zach. And when I'm with Andrew, he doesn't care about it. Before telling Mr. Zach about Andrew, he had given me the condition that I was not allowed to have a boyfriend. But I was so in love with Andrew that I just had to tell him rather than him finding out. He actually mentioned after finding out that I have Andrew who's no longer comfortable with me being with him, he told me to say Andrew should actually consider himself lucky that since I'm dating Mr. Zach, Andrew would indirectly have good grades. Let me also make mention to say that Mr. Zach would actually give me all the exam question papers before the exam, and he would also give me the answers. So for me, all exams became a walk in the park. I would get very good grades. I became an A+ student because I had all the papers before the exam. He actually told me that he would start doing the same for Andrew and provide him with all the papers before the exam. So after telling my lecturer and what he said, honestly, I was scared to leave him because he was actually threatening my education, and I really thought he had that power. He was the HOD of his department. HOD means head of department. So I was really scared to break up with him. At this point, I was stuck with both men. I was stuck with both men because I didn't have the audacity to break up with the boyfriend that I loved so much. And also, I couldn't even dare break up with my lecturer because Mr. Zach was literally keeping me in school at this point. He was safeguarding our little secret by not exposing me to everyone in school. So was my boyfriend because he knew everything, and he was threatening to show screenshots to people of the conversations that he had found earlier on our WhatsApp. He threatened to show them to my classmates and the management as well. So either way, I was going to be expelled if I broke up with any of the two men. So my only resort was to keep both of them. This started stressing me because Andrew made a suggestion, or rather let me call it a request, but this request was too big for me to handle. The request from Andrew was that I should start getting gifts and money from Mr. Zach and giving them to Andrew. So he told me if we are going to share a girl, like him and Mr. Zach, if they're going to share a girl, he might as well share in the benefits. The requests from my boyfriend have really been too much that they're now stressing the relationship that me and Zach share because he's been asking for expensive things. And initially when I started this relationship with Zach, my only benefit was the exam that I had missed. But now with Andrew in the picture, he was making this a living hell for me. Bear in mind that I started dating Andrew when I was already with Zach. Already the shift in my behavior was making Zach suspicious of everything that was going on. One day that actually stood out to me was when Andrew told me that his parents couldn't afford his school fees for that semester. So Mr. Zach had to kind of erase his balance from the school accounts. So he told me to make this request to Mr. Zach or he would break up with me. Let's rewind a little. When Andrew found out that I was going out with Mr. Zach, he told me that he would also start going out with my friend who was interested in him because he couldn't be loyal when I was being disloyal. I had no option but to agree because he was threatening he would expose everything. So I agreed, and he actually started going out with my closest friend, which meant that I had to lose my friend because me and her couldn't be friends. We're literally sharing the same man. This is the most complicated thing ever. Andrew has since been going out with my friend, and I have continued with Mr. Zach, but Andrew and I are still together. His requests are becoming unbearable, and honestly, I feel like I want to break up with him because he's exploiting Mr. Zach, and that's not the kind of girl that I am. But if I were to break up with either Zach or Andrew, the other would either expose me. So at this point, I have to keep one. In my opinion, I think my school is more important than Andrew. I do love Andrew, but he does not go above my school. I'm thinking I break up with Andrew and keep Mr. Zach, but also I'm very guilty about the fact that this is a married man and he's my lecturer. And this does not seem like it's going to stop anytime soon, because I can tell that Mr. Zach is actually catching a lot of feelings for me. Besides that, Andrew's request from Mr. Zach is still pending. Honestly, I don't know which one I should fulfill. I feel very confused. I just want to call everything off with Andrew and keep Mr. Zach. Honestly, I have no feelings for Zach, but he's literally saving my education. He's giving me papers before I walk into the exam room. I have the answers. My life has become so much easier with Mr. Zach anyway. What is Andrew doing for me? Almost nothing. I'm actually doing for him, because I have to do things with Mr. Zach for him to give me money to give Andrew. So Andrew is basically a liability and Mr. Zach is an asset in my life. We have it, guys. What do you think about this? Should she keep the lecturer? Should she keep her boyfriend? Or should she trade everything? Is it worth it going out with a married man because he's saving your education? Think it's right that Mr. Zach is saving her education? Do you think he really is saving her education though? Because personally, I think Mr. Zach would equally be in problems if he were to announce their relationship. He would lose his job, and since he's a married man, I would like to assume that he's got children. I don't think he wants to lose his job, but he's just trying to scare her into staying with him. For Andrew, I don't think he's a genuine boyfriend either, because who would allow you to be sleeping with another man and getting money from him as well as gifts and requesting for so much from that man while you date my friend, who's basically my best friend? For me, that doesn't make sense. None of the two guys love her. Obviously, Mr. Zach can't even be an option when it comes to love. I would suggest that you call it quits with Mr. Zach. You call it quits with Andrew as well. Just live your life. You can manage school. How did you get to second year before Mr. Zach? You were managing. Even if you are not a super A student, whatever you are getting is still fine. What's important is that you bag your degree. What would you do if it were you? Because honestly, it's quite confusing.